Zion Law School. Welcome. All right. Good to be with you for another. I'm trying to get this sign out of the, 1 second. I didn't realize that this sign was showing up on the camera. Let me just, all right. So good morning. Somewhere around 6 a.m. where I'm at in beautiful Vietnam. So welcome to this free astrotheology class. We can call it that, right? Okay, so our textbook is the Zodiac and the Gospels. The secret truth about JC, the Christ figure. All right, so what's the Zodiac doing in the Gospels? And why is the truth a secret? Okay? Why is the truth a secret? Well, not to beat a dead horse, I know I've made this point many, many times during the past probably 5 videos, but there's an inner house and there's an outer house. The inner house, these were JC's apostles, okay? The apostles. And the outer house was everyone else, okay? People inside the house in the inner circle, JC reserved the meaning of the parables that he told to only them. They were the only ones who had who were privy to know the meaning of those parables. So the masses of the Jewish people were kept in the dark about the mysteries of the kingdom of God and anything that would help them to repent so that they could be saved. All right? Y'all understand that? That's why it's the secret truth. Okay? The secret truth. It is not for you. Unless you're one of those 12 apostles who allegedly lived all the way back then, or any friend of JC who may have been in that room, you're excluded. Okay? You are excluded. So it's a secret truth. You have to be initiated in to that inner room or these secret societies, right? The initiation fee, or process rather, appears to involve a homosexual act. All right? As the secret portion of Mark that was removed clearly shows that JC invited a youth to have homosexual experiences with him. All right? JC said, well, that part of Mark that was taken out says that JC told the youth what to do, and then the youth came to his house in the evening. So clearly the youth did what he told him to do. But he came to his house in a linen cloth or just a jockstrap, as we would, if we look at the equivalent today. Showed up with a jockstrap. So JC told him to do that, right? Why else would they say JC told him what to do? All right, and he stayed till morning, and JC taught him the mysteries of the kingdom of God. Now, what do you think that means? Well, writers at the time, somewhere around 300 AD, said that both JC and the boy were naked. All right? which is why they took it out. Now, Mark is the original gospel. So these are some of the reasons why they're calling it secret. The secret truth about JC. Maybe his sexuality. Maybe he was a homosexual or bisexual. All right? It appears to be one or the other. Okay? So if you want to get in that inner circle, you need to be prepared to pay that price. All right? Anyway, let's get into it. Page 175. Page 175, our subheading is ARA, A-R-A, the altar and the curse. ARA, the altar and the curse, page 175. The relationship between the fig tree incident and the Sagittarian deacon, ARA, A-R-A, so this is a deacon. Scholars, you should know that deacons are constellations. Constellations are groups of stars, okay, that are organized, rather conceptualized, let me put it like that. These are constellations that are in the neighborhood of a zodiac sign. All right, so in this case, Sagittarius is a zodiac sign. Zodiac signs are constellations. So Ara is only another constellation located in the neighborhood or near Sagittarius. Clear? Also take note that deacons in the Christian church, their members, whether they're leaders, some of their leaders are called deacons, right? Yes, deacons. The four cardinal points, the solstices, winter, summer, the equinoxes, spring and fall. Well, also guess what? The higher ups are called what? Cardinals. Cardinals in the Christian church. Okay? You can do the same thing with bishops and congregations. All right? And then elder, or El, comes from Helios. Helios, remove the H, you get Elios. All right? Remove the L, you get El and Ios. Clear references to the sun. Ios is also the sun. All right? And also, in this case, El. I'm just looking at the morphology of the word Helios. All right? Hence, Helio Bibliotech. So you get the L, separate the L and Io, so that's a compound word. Right? So H is prefix to L and Ios. H plus L plus Ios. Remove the prefix H, you get L plus Ios. L as in elder. I'm not talking about the L's, the bays and the days. That's ancient. Way ancient. Okay? So this is where you get the L, or the elders. All astrological. The church leadership is astrological. Congregation, as in a congregation of stars, a constellation. All astrological. Let's continue. So, if you see someone in the Christian church and they're talking bad about science, cosmology, astrology, etc., maybe you should remind them who they are on paper. All right? Okay? Especially if they're claiming to be an elder. All right? Cosmology, congregation, cosmology, astrotheology, right? Period. Okay. The relationship between the fig tree incident and the Sagittarian deacon Ara is quite striking. All right, well, let's see what that relationship is. To the Romans, the word Ara meant altar. And according to Cassius, the constellation Ara represented one of the altars raised by Moses. Now it says represented. Okay, it says represented. Represented. So there's a metaphor. Okay, so we need to pay attention to that to see if it's legitimate or not. Ara represented one of the altars raised by Moses, or the permanent golden altar in the temple at Jerusalem. Some thought it represented the altar erected by Noah after the flood. Allen reckons that this association with the first is quoted, that Ara's association with the first altar helps to account for the prominence given to this visually unimportant constellation. In other words, the constellation ain't nothing to look at. All right, it ain't nothing to look at. It's not going to get your attention if you see it. You might see it and not even notice it. All right? And explains why Manilius calls it Mundi, M-U-N-D-I, Templum, T-M-P-L-U-M, quote, the temple of the world, end quote. This is on Allen, page 63. But in Greek, the word Ara means curse. In Greek, Ara means curse. Seiss writes of this constellation. All right, so here's what Seiss has to say about Ara. The Greek used the word Ara sometimes in the sense of prayer. That's interesting. They're associating prayer with a curse, but more frequently in the sense of an imprecation occurs. All right, so it was more frequently used in reference to or as a curse, or the effect of a curse. Bane, ruin, destruction. All right. In Aeschylus, it is the name of the actual curse of Oedipus. All right, so the curse of Oedipus is called Ara, after that constellation. So the curse is Oedipus personified. Let me read that again. In Aeschylus, Ara is the name of the actual curse of Oedipus personified. Well, I read that right. Seiss, page 56, 57. Emphasis is, so okay. So page 56 and 57. All right. So the Greeks used Ara more often than not to represent a curse, and in Greek mythology, Ara, let me make sure I get that right. The curse of Oedipus personified is Ara. All right. There you have it. So let's continue. Seiss informs us that the constellation Ara also has association with the altar of sacrifice. Now, isn't this interesting? The Romans, okay, to the Romans, so we always associate the Greeks and the Romans, right? To the Romans, the word Ara meant altar. All right? Ara represented one of the altars raised by Moses. That's according to Cassius. That's according to Cassius. All right, so Cassius, that's a different culture, a different era of time. So where did Cassius get his information? Cassius is not an Ibaryath name, or appellation, I should say. All right? So we have thousands of years between these two people. Where did Cassius get his information? Well, we know, if you all have been following my work, you already know that the works of Josephus is nothing but propaganda. Okay? It's propaganda. So where did he get his information? Let's continue. And all of this stuff that you read in the Gospels that allegedly takes place in Nazareth and in Jerusalem and Israel, it's an impossibility. It's so you all will have to go back and give me 1 second, y'all. Feels like an ant is crawling on me. Maybe it's a insect or something. All right. But anyway, you'll know that the promised land had been destroyed, uninhabitable, just like Sodom and Gomorrah. All right? So if this is new to you, watch the video that I did with Sonetta. All Abrahamic religions are a fraud. All right? It was totally destroyed, uninhabitable, like Sodom and Gomorrah. But that's another story. So where did they get this information? That's my point. All right? Some thought that Ara represented the altar erected by Noah after the flood. Who are these some? Who are they? Ancient men or women from the House of Yasharala, the bloodline, or are they religious Jews? Or are they Greeks or Romans? Okay? So this is very ambiguous, all right? So let's continue. Let's go back to it. Sykes informs us that the constellation Ara also has association with the altar of sacrifice. Okay, so I can see the relationship between a curse, an altar, and a sacrifice, right? You're cursed if you're being sacrificed. In fact, you Christians and you Hebrew Israelite Christians, you are cursed. Why? Because you are being sacrificed. Whether you know it or not. Okay? Your life, your energy is a sacrifice to the benefit of, I'm going to call them the dark side. All right? These are your oppressors. These are the people who are, let's just call them out. The Catholic Church, all of the religions, and all of the nation states. Okay? So if you're a Christian, you're chattel. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're chattel. And you're a resource. That's right, you are a resource. If you're in North America, you are a 14th Amendment, quote-unquote citizen. U.S. employee. Chattel. All right, so chattel, y'all, means cattle. Beast of burden. You're in bondage. You and your seed. All right? You're in bondage. You're carrying the bag. Any debt that the corporation decides it wants to take on, you're responsible for. In other words, you're holding the bag. You're the shorty. You're the fool. Okay? You're the fool, the idiot. Period. Okay, so you're the sacrifice, you are cursed. Okay, and this links the whole incident of the fig tree with the story of the cleansing of the temple. All right, we read about that at Mark 11:15 through 19. Anytime you are living out of harmony with nature, you're cursed. Okay? Why cursed? There's a natural law of cause and effect. You live out of harmony with nature, it's just a matter of time and when and how you will get corrective feedback. Corrective feedback usually is going to come in terms of a punishment. All right? If you get the message, if you get the memo, if you're conscious of it, well then you can minimize the damage. Okay, you get the memo, maybe someone says something to you, maybe you don't like it, right? That doesn't work, and then boom, you get some punishment, all right? Maybe that wakes you up, and you take corrective action. You return to the Most High. How do you do that? Follow His commandments, or follow the commandments. Follow the instructions, nature's law. Right? Clear? All right. It only stands to reason, right? If you say that there's a creator, I'm not giving you my position. I'm following most people's position. If you say, okay, there's a creator, He made everything. Well, if He made everything, in order to make something, there has to be rules, right? How is it going to come together? How is it going to stay together? Right? How is it going to stay in equilibrium or at harmony? Okay? So there has to be laws, rules, principles. So it only makes sense that you need to live in harmony with those laws and principles, right? There's nothing magic about that. Okay, if you drop something, it's going to fall to the floor. It'll never float or fly unless it's a bird. And, right? You've already acknowledged that birds fly. They're created to fly. So there's nothing magical about this. This cause and effect. Right? But hard-headed people who are involved in belief systems, you can beat them, corrective action, change, and they keep on going according to their belief. Even though the system that was created, let's call it the universe. No, let's not call it that, because some of y'all might get spaced out. Let's just call it that thing that your creator created is telling you, stop doing that. Stop doing that. But you keep doing it anyway. You keep going against nature anyway. Right? Why? Because of your belief system. Okay? All right. So that's why some people need to hit Skid Row. I remember when I was in junior high school, when we learned about Skid Row, about an alcoholic. At that time, very few people were using drugs. We were learning about Skid Row, how alcoholic, most of them, they have to hit the lowest of the low on the street, you know, health is gone, everything is gone. Skid row before it dawns on them that they really need to stop. So these belief systems are the same way. Many people have to hit skid row. You got to lose everything. Health, wealth, family, dignity. Okay? And you might even have to do that a couple times before you can really get past not just the intellectual part, because that's one of the first things people begin to realize intellectually, that their religion, something ain't right, right? But it's the fear that they put on you, right? I know someone who told me a couple times, yeah, I know something's wrong with my religion, right? I don't be listening to everything them people say. But what if it's true? I would rather be in the situation I'm in now than it turn out to be true and I go burn in hell. You see the type of power, the bondage that person or people, let me correct that. People who are in that place, you see the kind of bondage that they're in, right? So it's about fear. They're in it because of fear. And y'all know that if you're doing something out of fear, you know you need to stop, right? It's only when it comes to belief systems, religion, that people, yeah, it's a mosquito, I just saw it. But it's only when it comes to religion, belief systems, that people don't want to give up those things that they're doing out of fear, right? But anyway, let's continue. I kind of went off on a tangent. The Jerusalem temple, okay, so Jerusalem was completely destroyed. It was like Sodom and Gomorrah, all right? So this is just a story. Let's read it. The Jerusalem temple was the center of Jewish, that's religion, not bloodline, that's religion, not nationality, sacrificial worship. Now, as I mentioned before, y'all put this image in your mind. Cutting the throats of bulls and sheep, killing all kinds of animals, blood everywhere. Okay, get this image in your mind. Blood all over you. Let's say you're the priest, you're the one who's sacrificing the animals. You're cutting them up, blood everywhere, all over you. Okay, all over you. You're removing the guts. Y'all know a cow? Y'all ever smell cow poop? Have you ever smelled cow poop? That's an awful smell. That's enough to make you vomit. All right? You're doing this day in and day out. Think about all of the bacteria, all of the pathogens present that could make you sick and make people sick around you. Think about the smell, okay? Now imagine you're doing all of this butchering of animals, okay? The liquid in their digestive tract squirting out on you. You cut the neck, the blood is squirting all over your face, all over your clothes. Now imagine somebody walks in and sees you with all of this blood on your face, your hands, your clothes, and you got a knife in your hand. what do you think they're gonna think? Isn't that like it's blood everywhere? Isn't that like a scene out of a horror movie? You got a knife in your hand, full of blood everywhere. It stinks like unbelievably. Okay? Have y'all ever thought about that? The smell has to be unbearable. Cows and sheep, their intestines, the poop comes out, the fluids in the stomach, the bile. Can you imagine what that smells like, y'all? Can you imagine what it looks like? But here, can you imagine the fear in the animals as you take them to slaughter them? Can you imagine the sounds they would make? Have y'all ever thought about this? They're not stupid, right? They know when one of their friends leaves and they don't come back. Have y'all ever seen these animals, these videos about animals at these butchering farms, where they prepare meat, how the animals know that they're about to go die, the way they act? Have y'all ever seen those videos? Search them on YouTube, you'll see. They know what the deal is. So here you are looking at somebody called a priest with a big butcher knife in his hand, okay? Blood all over him. What's holy about that? And the smell, what's so holy about that? Anyway, y'all can read more about this in the Devil's Pulpit. The disgusting things that these priests did as far as animal sacrifices are concerned. I can assure you that not one of you or your father or your grandfather would want to do or could even imagine doing what these priests did. All right? Which begs the question. Did our ancestors really do that? That level of cruelty to satisfy a deity. Read about that in the Devil's Pulpit. The link to the free PDF is in the description area of this video. Also, if you feel it in your heart to support my project, I'm DrYasapa from Zion Law School. If you feel it in your heart to support my project, to write the book of the law in Ancient Ibaryath, the original language it was originally written in and spoken in, and also to faithfully and accurately render it or translate it into modern English using easy to understand words. Okay? No intentionally confusing passages. All right? No tricks. All of the natural law, all of the astrology, cosmology, whatever you want to call it, will be put back. All of the information about estate, trust, escheat, bills of attainder, etc., 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 all of it will be put back in plain language, nothing hidden. This will help you to identify who you are. And if you already know who you are, it'll give you more reasons to be confident because the language is clear. So I'll give you the ancient Ibaryath word of every sentence. Okay? Every sentence. The ancient Ibaryath word, its etymology, okay? Its etymology, how I render it in English, The unfinished sentence, now most of y'all probably don't know what I'm talking about, but if you want to know what I'm talking about, come to the class on Saturday that I teach. It's live, it's online, every Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The link is in the description area of the video. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Show up. 506, the curses course. All right? Click that link, register, make sure you read everything, and then show up. All right? And start learning. Period. Okay? So you'll get the unfinished sentence and you'll get the finished sentence. Let me go back. You'll get the part of speech, how that word functions in the sentence. And then you'll get the finished sentence. The whole book of the law. This is a huge project. All right? Anything that was taken out, I'll put back in. I know it because it's in the language. All right? Anything that was thrown in there, any insertions, I'm going to remove it. Okay? So you'll get the words that were spoken to Moses and that Moses spoke to our ancestors. That culminated in what we call the Mosaic covenant, the contract. All right? The contract between the Most High and the House of Yasharala. You'll get it fresh out the oven. All right? But I want and I need your support up front. I'm not going to do this huge project with no support on my own. I'm not willing to eat soy sauce and rice and suffer, all right, while I do the project. I'm well beyond that in my life right now, okay? So if y'all want to have that, support the project so that I can do it without putting my health at risk, okay, and without having to suffer. Okay? Let me say it again. I'm not going to eat soy sauce and rice. This is a full-time job. Requires total commitment, and focus. So to do a job like that, you need to be in good health and good cheer. All right? Any other way becomes stressful and potentially dangerous to a person's health. And I'm just not going to put myself in that situation. Okay? So if y'all want to support the project, if you feel in your heart that we need it, then kindly and generously do what you can in terms of Federal Reserve notes. Maybe I should. So my paypal.me/Zion Law School, link is in the description area of the video. And my Cash App is $DrYasapa. So send your support to one or of those, okay? And tell everybody else about it, y'all. Tell everybody else about it. This is something that we, as a nation of people, should all support. We should all support it, right? I mean, it's just a matter of having some self-respect and dignity. How are you going to talk trash about people who oppress you, but yet you're running around using their literature, arguing with each other over their literature, okay? And using their literature as a basis of knowing who you are. When Jeremiah 8 verse 8 clearly says that the scribes wrote lies in the book of the law. Go check it, the Amplified Bible version. Jeremiah 8, verse 8. That's right, our ancestors wrote lies in the book of the law. So clearly, we need to create our own copy of the book of the law and remove the lies. And what did they do with the book of the law and the lies that they wrote? Well, they created religions. It says it's right there, plain as day. Let's continue. I hope everybody can see why I'm doing this project. All right? And any organization, Christian or Hebrew Israelite, who does not support me writing the book of the law in ancient Ibaryath and modern English in the format that I just said, you should be suspect. They're exposing themselves. Most of them won't even talk about me or my work. Why? Because when you learn the information that I'm teaching about ancient Ibaryath, even just ancient Ibaryath, you don't need them anymore. Their doctrine begins to dissolve. And you see the BS and faketry. I made that word up, y'all, faketry. Okay? Of these religions, whether they want to lie to you and tell you they're not a religion. Okay, but if it quacks like a duck and it looks like a duck, it's a duck. All right? No doubt about it. But if they don't support or if they talk against it, use your common sense. Why? Why shouldn't we have our own book of the law? Why? Right? What's their motive? If there's a movement, if their deity is bringing the people together, why aren't they seeing their deity as saying, let's get this book of the law written and distributed into everybody's hand? Why aren't they seeing it that way? Clearly, you know why. One is competition and insecurity. That's right. Insecurity. In other words, they're trying to grow their serfdom, their fiefdom. That's right. That means you're their serf. Get out there and go preach. Get out there and go get me more members. Start more Bible studies. Right? You give them all that energy. And if there's ever a problem, you walk away with nothing. Anyway, let's continue. All right, so the temple, but y'all be sure, go to the Devil's Pulpit, download the link to the free PDF, the Devil's Pulpit, and read those sections on animal sacrifices. Educate yourself and ask the question, would you do that? Would your father or his father do what they were doing? I challenge you to go read it. And by the way, last time I checked, is that these cows that y'all see, They're hybrids. Chew on that. Chew on that. You're sacrificing hybrids. Isn't it interesting, y'all, that the religions are so involved with hybrids, things that are not natural. They're hybrid. Genesis chapter 1. Let us make mankind in our image. A hybrid. Nephilim is a hybrid. Raphaim, hybrid. Why such focus? Why such a premium put on hybrid creatures? Why such an emphasis put on the seed? Christ coming out of the seed, right? This is the horizon, right? Morning time coming. My fist is the sun, okay? Christ coming out of the seed. Mary, Myrrh, seed, mistress, right? Christ born from Mary. Christ born from the seed. Myrrh, maritime. Marine, Mariana, all right? Y'all see? All of these, I mean, there's much more. The Jerusalem temple was the center of Jewish sacrificial worship, the excess of which are attacked by JC in heroic Sagittarian fashion. He cast out the merchants, overturned, now it said the excess. We're talking about animal sacrifice. So there was a whole lot of animals. Can you imagine the stench? The stench. You've got to kill the animal. You've got to remove its organs. Y'all know what chitlins smell like? When I was little, I remember my mother used to clean chitlins. Oh, it was the most disgusting smell. Multiply that by 500 or even 100. Now remember, all of the people are going in there, right? They got to deal with their sins. The excess in sacrificial worship, killing animals, a whole bunch of animals. You're smelling their, y'all know what vomit smells like? Can you imagine that? Well, imagine animals, you take out the stomach, the fluids come out, right? You take out the intestines, the poop come out. Multiply that by 100 or 1,000. Okay, then the blood, old blood stinks. It coagulates. Imagine the stench. You couldn't bear it. And then the priest, full of blood, walking around with knives. It looks like something out of a horror movie. Think about that. Visualize it, see it. And imagine Jack Nicklaus with that big butcher knife and blood all over his face. Or some other horror movie, right? Imagine that. That's what you're dealing with. All right, so anyway, let's continue. JC cast out the merchants, overturns the tables of the money changers and the seats. So there's a footnote. We got to come back to that. of the dove sellers. Now, scholars, we read in the devil's pulpit about the hypocrisy of JC, and this incident with the money changers are one of the hypocrisies. So, for example, Robert Taylor in the devil's pulpit mentions that JC whipped, beat the money changers. These are common people, right? They're just trying to make a living, all right, changing money. If you ever traveled overseas, y'all know that changing money can be big business. But not all money changers are rich. Many of them are struggling, right? If you've ever traveled and lived overseas for any amount of time, y'all know that money changers are everywhere, except for in the US, maybe Canada, or Western countries. But in Southeast Asia, money changers are everywhere. And there are more who are poor than who are rich. But JC turns over their tables, disciplines them, beats them. Yes, violence. All right? Don't do this here in my Father's house. Isn't the earth also a creation of whoever he's saying his Father is? Why didn't he have that same energy with Pontius Pilate? Why didn't he beat him? Why didn't he beat the Roman soldiers? I'm talking about what the Reverend Robert Taylor in his book, The Devil's Pulpit, writes about the hypocrisy, the moral hypocrisy that you see hidden in the Gospels. Why didn't JC beat the soldiers? Isn't it worse that you would spit on, slap, beat up, humiliate, torture the son of capital G-O-D, who is actually G-O-D himself, you know, Trinity, or however you want to look at that doctrine? Which is worse? You doing violence on the son of the deity, who is in fact the deity himself. Y'all see how crazy that sounds? You spit on him, punch him, slap him, whatever, right? Put a crown of thorns on him, humiliate him. Which is worse? Who did worse? Or these money changers out there who they just trying to get by. Most of them. You whip them, you show out to the people who have no power, but then when you go to the foreigner who's ruling over your people, your nation, you're submissive. You completely lay down. You're in subjection to them. And you don't do nothing, even though they did worse. So that's the point. All right, so there are many other instances of this type of moral hypocrisy. Okay, and subjection to foreigners, to foreign invaders. Okay, so let's continue. JC prevents people using the temple precincts as a thoroughfare, and he declares the place a den of thieves. Why doesn't he say something about the Romans, right, who have taken over the country? Y'all know this is an allegorical story. But why didn't he say, why didn't he do something about that? Forget about the doctrine and how, see, the doctrines explain it away. What I'm suggesting that you do is look at it logically. Okay? And the doctrine is not logic. The doctrine is an explanation as to why he didn't do anything. Okay? The temple no longer serves any valid religious function. See, religion having nothing to do with the Mosaic covenant or the law. Y'all see that? Has nothing to do with the Mosaic covenant, the contract. Religion. Like the fig tree whose leaves deceive by promising fruit with no fruit, when no fruit exists. The temple's beauty and ostensible commitment to spiritual values are mere hypocritical shame. So isn't that hypocritical, right? We were just talking about that. The hypocrisy of this event in itself relative to the way the Christ figure just laid down and folded up under the Romans. Okay? It's like the pot calling the kettle black. It is not a house of prayer for all nations. Note the Sagittarian expansiveness, echoing Manilius's Monday or Munde Templum, but a commercial enterprise. Now, isn't what the Romans were doing, that's nothing but commercial enterprise, right? They come into a place and they rob everybody and make you pay a tax. So where's the difference? That's even more commercial. They even take your birthright. They excheat you. That's where these concepts come from. They excheat you. Okay? Hit you with attainders, bills of attainders. All of that was commercial. Otherwise, they would not have even been there. All right? But a commercial enterprise. So, in other words, the temple had become a commercial enterprise. Okay, JC was disgusted with that. Well, guess what? The Romans had commercialized Jerusalem. So they're both guilty of the same thing, but the Romans to a larger extent. Echoing Manilius's Monday Templum, but a commercial enterprise based on the notion that capital God is to be approached through the killing of animals. Y'all see the ridiculousness of this? The hypocrisy of it? Your deity is to be approached through the killing of animals. Imagine the stench, the visuals, the bloody faces and bloody hands, the bloody clothes. All right? The stench, the filth, stomach contents, vomit everywhere, feces everywhere, body fluids everywhere, of bulls, sheep, whatever, birds, completely filthy. But yet the deity is supposed to be what? Godliness is supposed to be next to cleanliness. But yet you need to approach the deity through animal sacrifice, a filthy process. Shalom and Islam to all the Moors. Y'all come check out my literature, all of the books that I've written, Ancient Ibaryath. I have them for beginners. All right, ancient like 911 Ibaryath Rescue. That's a foundational book. It'll teach you about the pictographs, their symbology, meaning, gives you images and all of these kinds of things. 2 more advanced books, all right? So I have the 10 Commandments. This is Phoenician 101 Phoenician Hebrew. This gives you a word-for-word analysis or breakdown of every Ibaryath word, all of the English words, okay? They're part of speech. Just like I mentioned how I would structure the outline for the Book of the Law, 101 Phoenician Hebrew is the same way, except for it gives you a breakdown of all of the Ten Commandments, okay? I have the same thing for Deuteronomy 28. I've completed, I think, 3 volumes, okay? I have probably 3 or 4 more to go before that series is complete. But anyway, you must learn ancient Ibaryath. If you don't, you're going to be lost in the sauce at the mercy of Bible translators. All right? In other words, you will continue to be a child in that respect, right? Dependent on somebody else. Okay, Shalom and Islam.